Welcome to another episode of Groove Theory. You've got me, your host, Nate Ndlovu Kacheni Boyebenyati Kataza Mangamadotu Pepa Yunene, and I have an amazing guest with me today. He goes by the name of Adam Byars. I'll let him do the introduction, where he's from, what he does, and just a little history about how he's come to be in this life. So, Adam, please take the floor.
Thank you. So the introduction is, my name is Adam Byars. I was proudly born in Zimbabwe many moons ago, 1976, which is quite a significant date in South Africa's history and Africa's history. I'm just a passionate entrepreneur. I'm a creative at heart. Whilst I can't design, I don't plan to design. I just have a creative mind and a creative level of thinking. I love Africa. South Africa is an adopted country for me, which has become my own. Thank you for having me on the show. It's certainly a real honor to be here.
Thank you for making the time. And for those that don't know you and what you do, please tell us about Grid Worldwide.
Grid Worldwide, it is an enigma in itself. So Grid Worldwide is a creative agency in South Africa based in Johannesburg. Proudly South African agency, but we have, some good global stature, worked on some good global clients, but made ourselves famous through our philosophy of creative thinking, our philosophy of breakthrough, purpose-led creative, and have worked on some of what I believe are some of South Africa and Africa's most iconic brands, including the big telcos, MTN, some of the big banking brands. FNB's been our longest standing client, the curators, and certainly the originators of the Marble Group brands, which includes Marble, Saint, Zoo and Pantry. And then probably the recent most interesting, trying and challenging task has been just curating the Luxurious Marble Circus and where we can take that. So, we're certainly proud of the brands we work on, but more importantly, I think it's like a big thing for me as CEO of Grid is just how do we influence and continuously build and narrate a really truly African and South African narrative. Specifically around enablement, specifically around, I think creativity is one of the bigger enablers of our economy, supported by the private sector, how that then can really push its way into the government sector. And just, I think as a creative industry, we think creatively, we think innovatively. And, for me, innovation is not just tech. Innovation is just finding new ways of doing things. And on a continent like Africa, I think innovation is the lifeline of our existence. So from a creative, from a brand, from a entrepreneur point of view, I think creativity has to sit at the heart of everything that we do in order for us to continue to be and exist.
And what's this in terms of just running an agency and being a CEO of an agency? What are the stereotypes that many people seem to have with agency life?
Well, I think the first stereotype is everyone thinks you have to be a creative, and you don't. I think you just running an agency. For me, I come from a sporting background, so I derive very little inspiration from the world of business. I derive most of my inspiration from sport. So running an agency, if ever there was a job, I would want to take what I do at Grid, which is a high-performance, precisionally led agency. I'd want to be the team principal of an F1 team.
Wow.
Comes with, because there's so many moving parts. I think the stereotype in running an agency is that doing great creative work and then selling and making a profit from that is a difficult task because, in the creative industry, in what we do, we don't sell a cup, we don't sell a widget, we sell a creative idea. And you're asking clients to pay for a creative idea that in our instance, we will only believe in if we know it solves a business problem.
True.
So I think that's where there's this interesting tension between business and creativity. And when you look at some of the, the new, bigger companies, Apple, Google, they found that tension and they've put creativity at the heart of everything they do. It's an extension of the marketing function. So from my side, running an agency is just like running an F1 team. You got to understand who the driver is. You got to understand who the engineer is. You got to understand who the pit crew is. You got to keep that pit crew going, keeping that changeover time less than 2 seconds. And, you know, we built our business in a pressure cooker. We've built it. It's not like we have an off day. We've just literally, you walk in after your holiday in January and it just maintains the same level of pace and intensity. And that's what we do for 12 months of the year. And we try and deliver that in the work that we do. So an F1 team, if you have to compare it, it is like an F1 team. It comes with all the glitz, all the glamour, all the failure, all the heartache, the tire bursts, the car smashes. Anything can happen in many different ways. So the stereotype of running an agency is that it's cool. It's a big party. You drink a lot of tequila. You have a lot of late nights. Those things happen, but that's not what the agency is. Like the creative industry for me is really fucking hard work. And if you're not willing to put in hard work, then don't go into the industry, because the creative industry is a passion. You either love what you do and you're passionate about what you do, and you there's nothing better than seeing an idea come from a blank page and then turning that into business and then turning that into a creative solution that solves business problems. So the stereotype of the creative industry is that it's cool and it's a whole lot of fun, but I just think it's not work. We do this because we love doing it.
Yeah, and just on that, which brand have you loved working on? Obviously, all of them have been your favorite, but which is the one that you realize that you've solved the solution for a client and you've, created something that everyone loves and it's authentic?
Yeah, I tell you, I'm not sure everyone loves the brands that I'm going to announce, but in 25 years of my career, there were 3 core moments in my career of the work that I've done and the work I'm really proud of. And I always say, when I chat to students and get into various interviews, there's going to be that one job where you leave your heart on the playing field. Yeah. And I've had 3 instances. The first big one for me was in 2014. We started the project. We rebranded Qatar, which in prep for 2022 World Cup. Yeah. And we walked into a country that we hadn't grown up into. It's a country that was the richest country in the world per capita. It's 180 kilometers long, 60 kilometers wide. And you got to take a country and put it into a campaign. You got to put it into a philosophy. You got to put it into a thought. And there's so many layers to that. So the first one would be Qatar tourism. I think the work that we did was absolutely incredible. It's one of the biggest tourism campaigns, as a South African agency, to see your work in Times Square and Piccadilly Circus, all over the world, in Berlin airports, and the coordinated effort that took. So that for me was the first big one. I think the second big project that became quite personal for me was the Zakes Bantwini brand, creating Zakes' brand.
And a lot of people know that,
personal. It was a really personal thing because, he's a great performer in so many ways and is a real showman. But to see his brand on the back end of a song like Osama, which became a global hit, I think in 2023 summer, everyone played it, everyone remixed it. But to see and be part of that journey and go with him, to the Grammys, and I never thought I'd get the opportunity to go to the Grammys and see a South African lift a Grammy award, and was so well deserved. Like that for me is a really personal. That was a personal journey, and just to continue see him grow and inspire other artists, and what Black Coffee is doing. Like that's not just music. That's building brand outside of your persona of being a DJ and making music. Those are proudly South African brands. And we should be really proud of that. So, and then the last one was probably the most recent one, was the Luxurious Marble Circus. It took a huge effort from three very, very world-class companies, from a grid, from a creative point of view, G&G from a production, and obviously the Marble Group from a hospitality point of view. But to see that moment last year in October, to see 8,000 people celebrate being South African, celebrate being themselves, seeing the stage and just feeling like I could be anywhere in the world. That was a proud moment for me personally. And I left there a little bit of my heart again was left on the field at the grounds, and it just makes you want to wake up a few days recovery and you say, hey, we can do it again, and we're going to do it better, and we're going to do it for the people of South Africa, because we just saw, like when we saw the footage and the content, the elation and the celebration that people had about being there and just being themselves was absolutely incredible.
And what's this? When I went, like first and foremost, before we jump into that, I love pantry. I really do love pantry. I think there was a point where all my friends thought I had shares there because I was always there.
Yeah.
It's just got that vibe, man. It's like home, you know.
Yeah.
But on Luxurious Marble, I went there, and obviously when I saw it on my social media, I was like, "What is this?" Because it is so enticing when you look at it on social media. You're like,
yeah,
it's.
But it didn't give you anything.
Yes.
That was the hardest part of it. Is that we didn't even know what it was. To be completely honest, we didn't know what it was going to be. So to tell the story on socials, we could. You know, that's what we do as a business, as a creative agency. We have a very strong, insightful thought that we then turn into a story, and we can convey it. But you know, when we launched Marble Circus, it took on a life of its own in the lives of South Africans and on social media, and we've seen it in year 2 as well. So yeah, it's just, but that for me is like, that is, I think, when you move from a event property and you're playing in culture.
Yeah.
And when the people can take something on themselves and make it their own and use it to create a feeling for themselves, whether it's happiness or joy or self-expression, I think then you've done something really well from a curation point of view.
And what's this, when you guys were like sitting and just coming up with the idea, what sparked it? Like, okay, you know, guys, we've got this, we've got that. Let's just put them all together and do one huge festival. Like, how did it spark? How did it come to life?
Listen, it started out as what would, if I said to anyone in the room, Marble's going to open a hotel. Intuitively, and this is the great thing about creating brands and the recall of a brand and the feeling of a brand. If I told you Marble's going to open a hotel, in your mind, if you closed your eyes, you'd feel it, you'd probably smell it, you'd know kind of what the rooms are going to look like, but you don't really know what the facade of the hotel is going to look like. Yes. If I said Marble's going to open a airport lounge, again, you would have a feeling of what they could do, or they're going to open a day club. So on that very specific point, I don't think there was a moment where Marble came to us with G&G and Greg and Dino, and they're like, listen, guys, what would a marble in the gardens look like? What would a marble picnic look like? And that was the start of an idea. Yeah. But, you know, in true grid fashion, that's not enough for us.
Yeah, you want
it can't be a picnic in a garden. Let's create a property that is fun. I think the big thing, the key word in the Luxurious Marble Circus is the word luxury. Yeah. And luxury is a stuck-up word. Luxury means expensive. Luxury means only for a select few. Luxury doesn't mean fun. Luxury doesn't mean necessarily bringing people together, because it's an exclusive. It's an exclusive word in itself. So we want to break that stereotype. So the real sentiment behind the Luxurious Marble Circus is luxury, is luxury fun. So everything we do is luxury, but it has that element of fun. So, you know, when you're promising 8,000 people a luxurious experience, you better deliver on that. And if you look at the tension in festivals today, it's plastic cups, it's long queues at a bar, it's wooden tables, and it's dusty, specifically in Gauteng. Yes, and if it's in Cape Town, you know, it's a little greener and sometimes it's wet. But the idea of luxury and fun are two interesting tensions, and I think for us, bringing them together was what we could do. But I think what we call the LMCers, those that actually attended, they made it their own, and they are the real. You know, so then you take the Luxurious Marble Circus and take the word circus. Circus is not something that lives in today's, world. I grew up with circus, and it was bringing different acts and different things and animals and people together in a celebration of things. So there was just something special in a circus.
And what's this, for me, when I was there, I literally like, I couldn't stop taking videos. Obviously, when you go to an event or a festival, you want to enjoy the moment and be like, okay, how did this come about? You know, how did this brand collaboration come about? And I looked at it and I was just like, you know, you look at something and you just be like, the client and agency, they must have just had one hell of a vibe session because everything just works so well together. And I was looking at some of the activations and I was just there like, okay, I wish this thing could go on for longer because I want to go to each activation on each day and just to experience it and like tell people how it was. And there was one day I had to leave a bit early and I was like, what time is it closing? I think I can make it back. So, you know, when it comes to that, when I think of this next question is, how did you guys in the beginning get all those brands to cohesively work together and be like, this is our vision for the festival. This is what we'd like to bring to the people of South Africa. How did it come about talking to the brands like, listen, Johnny Walker wants you to do this. Savannah, we want you to do this. Yeah. How did it?
I tell you, we flipped the narrative. And for the first time, we were the class.
For real?
So if you look, like if you've got Grid, you've got G&G and Marble Group, we own the Marble Circus.
Yeah.
And when we then said, well, if this is what the Marble Circus is, and this is the story, and this is what it needs to be, let's go and find the right brands as brand collaborators to bring this to life. So, you know, the first big brand, I don't want to say sponsorship, the first big brand collaborator and enabler was Investec. So if you look at Investec's positioning of ordinary life, out of the ordinary, you know, it worked for them. It worked for them in every way because they've always shown up as a very different offering. So, you know, to get them on board as title sponsor was just so key to how we could then roll that out because for the first time, we became the client and we could go to the brands that we work with every day and say, listen, here's a property. Would you be keen? But you can't come in on the usual sponsorship.
Yeah, it's going to be different.
Field.
Yeah.
You've got to come in as a collaborator.
Yeah.
So again, we created the grounds and we created the tent for the circus and the brands became the real participants. And the great thing about the Marble Circus is not just a 2-day festival. It's now become a 9-10 month campaign for brands where they can really integrate, align with their brand positioning, align with their brand objectives, and it becomes an ongoing property and an ongoing tool. So for them to collaborate, we had guardrails that we said, listen, to come in, it's got to work within the Marble Circus realm of fun and luxurious. And I think all the brands are the real unsung heroes of last year's event in itself, because the collaborations and the curation of their brand experience didn't feel like brand experiences. It felt like deep immersive experiences. Oh, and by the way, you can, you know, sit in the Verve Terrace, you can have a Johnny Walker on the platform, you can go to the Savannah Fantastical Forest or the Speakeasy. It just became a part of the curation of this beautiful circus in itself. And I think when you can tap into brands on that level, you have a different relationship with them and you allow them to have a different relationship with the customer. And then it becomes, all right, now, if we understand this connection between the property, the brand, and the consumer, now as an organization, what is the right product then to put in the mix? And that becomes important.
When I was there, obviously I had an amazing time. Just that whole setup of the stage and stuff, you know, and coming up and having those acts, so many acts from last year. How was the curation around this year, different from last year?
Yeah, I tell you, like the stage is the hero.
Yeah.
So if you look at any picture, you look at any angle, the stage has to be the hero. And, you know, as passionate entertainers between the three organizations, we felt that because we're an African or South African event property, why doesn't that mean we can do in a Coachella or a Tomorrowland stage? And that was the inspiration. So we've got I believe South Africa's musical talent is what's really driving the music across the globe, and it's influencing so many different genres. You know, if you've got kind of music that's got a big Afro-tech influence, you've got Black Coffee that, you know, he remains true to what he is and he plays on a global stage. So you've got Zakes and you've got Shimza, who's just, proudly South African, but they're playing on a global stage. So the stage was us paying homage to the great talent that we have in Africa and South Africa. Yeah. And we wanted to give them the biggest stage they've ever played on in South Africa.
Yeah.
And the only other one you can compare with in size and scale is Ultra. But Ultra starts with South Africa and it ends with the likes of Martin Garrix. And Sean's done a great job in giving that stage on a South African context. So the Marble Circus started out being a proudly South African initiative and a proudly South African property. So the stage was, how do you build something that they feel wowed about and they feel super excited to perform on? And then the bigger trick was the evolution of the stage in the day into the evening.
Yeah.
And generally that gets done with lighting, but you got so much different technology and so many different creative ways and so many just creative stimulation. So when you started to see the mapping come alive on the stage itself and the stage could transform, you started to see what you call the LMC moments. It pauses and there's this big, pyromaniac moment and the music and all of that. So the curation of the music is not necessarily the priority for us. If you see, we don't go out and sell
the
artists. We don't sell the lineup because it's so much more of the lineup. You even said, well, how much do you think you got to see last year? 50% of it, 60%?
Yeah,
it's still big 40%. So the lineup is not the main attraction. For us, it's this luxurious marble circus experience that is the main attraction that then gets supported by South Africa, and potentially one day global's best talent.
Touching on that, shout out to Sean. Because I've been to Ultra roughly three years in a row. I think this will be my fourth, if I'm correct. And I was at Luxurious Marble and I was like, damn. The way the experiences are very different. Also at Ultra, I have a great time. I go to different stages. I know. And I was at Luxurious Marble and I was like, you know what? I wouldn't mind if this thing was like every 6 months. Like it's that good.
Yeah.
Obviously there's a lot of work behind it. But in essence, how did you take, obviously you said this before, people think of luxury in a very bad way, some people. But how did you make it so authentic and part of the culture that people be like, you know what, actually, I want to go to this thing. And also as us, the youth, when we think of circus, we think of Gold Reef City, and we want it to be like a nighttime thing. We want it from day, let there be a nighttime. And I feel like you guys hit the brief perfectly. For me, it's a fun time with adults, and you're like, okay, I can still be a kid again. So how did you guys, bring culture into it and make it authentic for people to enjoy? And maybe what are the things that you added there? Like, you know what, I'm client, I want this to be there. Maybe I would like a clown. Maybe I would like this there. What are the things that you love that you added there?
Yeah, so the first big thing was curation. Like if you want to give someone a really deep immersive experience, you've got to curate and understand the moments that they're going to go through in experiencing. And the Marble Circus is a 12-hour event. It's a long, like even Ultra, you get there 2-3 in the afternoon till 2 in the morning. That's a long event. So and for me, events have moments. They have high moments and they have low moments. You can't keep doing an event like that because it'll ultimately just implode. So I think you got to culture is a vibration, and if you're on the vibration, you go with culture. Yeah. If it's like an event, and creativity, if you get the right vibration, you connect with the right consumer, you're unstoppable. So the Marble Circus in itself, the curation of it was the stage in the day is not the main. It's not the main focal point. It's everything else around it. It's the food. It's the different lounging experiences. It's the different tents. It's the different dining experiences. So in the food is about just connecting and just becoming. And then as the day draws in, you start curating everyone to that central feel, because every event needs a pulse and it needs a heartbeat. Yeah. And in this instance, the stage is the pulse and the people are the heartbeat. They're the emotion. They're the euphoria. They really brings everyone together. So the event, the curation of it, is what evolves over time. And the ultimate ideal is when you get everyone on the field. But what happened even last year was some people enjoyed the Savannah Fantastic Forest so much. Some people never left the Verve Terrace, but you could still see the stage and you could still experience it. So it kind of goes, it starts out quite wide and it then ultimately curates and brings everyone in. The thing you say, I wish the Marble Circus was every 6 months. We're going to get it to a point where it is every 6 months because we're going to move it from Johannesburg ultimately to Cape Town one day. We've got a big announcement coming post this one.
Oh, okay.
So take the Marble Circus for adults and reverse it, flip it. There's a big announcement for one of the bigger requests was the magical Family Fest is coming soon, and that's something we're super, super proud about. And that's going to cater from toddlers right up until 17-year-olds. And just again, like you said, like every adult, I don't think we get the opportunity enough anymore to be kids again.
Yes.
And the only time I find you can experience being a kid again, as I'm a dad of toddlers, is when I live my life with my toddlers. Yeah. But I missed being a kid, when I didn't have kids. So the Marble Circus is about that feeling. And it needs to take you back, because when you're a kid, I think you see the world for the innocence of what the world is, and you forget about everything for a few hours. Yeah. And we wanted to do that. That was our real intention. So this year, what's super exciting is the dialing up of fashion. Last year, it was food and it was music. But last year, without us even saying anything, I think the LMC has just showed up in so many different ways, in so many different forms, in so many different outfits, that if we don't show up this year from a fashion point of view, we've got Fabiani as the official men's as clothing sponsor. We're announcing Tepwa Jeans as the official merchandise legacy partner. And, we're really going to encourage people to be even more flamboyant and more expressive from a fashion point of view.
Because I remember there was this whole debate like, oh, what do you wear? How are we going to get there and all those things on social media? And I was like, listen, it's in the name. So if just go there just to impress. And when I saw the pictures, and bear in mind, after the event, I just saw praises about it. And I was like, there's really nothing bad to say about it. And I was sort of like, there was one person like, oh, I didn't like this. But I'm like, did you experience all the other spots?
Yeah.
Or were you just in one place the whole time? Because some people will tend to bash something whereas they haven't fully experienced it. Were you on your phone the whole time? Did you actually take the time to understand why things were curated the way they were?
Yeah.
And when I was with my friends, we wanted to go to the Viv Lounge. Yeah. And then they were like, no, we can't go there. I'm like, you can. You don't necessarily have to be doing all the lavish things to get in there.
Yeah.
You can go there. So I think I love the fact that you guys changed that narrative. Like, listen, we're bringing luxurious to you. You just have to show up to the party, literally.
I think the key is making luxury accessible.
Yes.
And that's where luxury in its current form, because we've all grown up with it, think about it. The richest man in the world is a man who sells leather bags. Do you know how many leather bags you got to become the richest man in the world? But because luxury was an aspiration. So in our instance, I find in Africa, I think it's very different in North America, Asia, and Europe. For us, luxury is not necessarily a tangible. Yeah. Luxury is an experience. It's like it's the Luxurious Marble Circus. So, again, we've got a series of what I call Lux events that as Grid 608, which is our entertainment business that we're rolling out over the next 18 months. And we've taken one big international luxury brand, and we're giving them authenticity and affinity in a local market to be seen beyond just a purchase of a beauty product or a bag. There are beautiful luxury experiences, from the Dior beach clubs that are in Ibiza and Dubai and Mykonos. Think of fashion and think of fashion and luxury. They've always had their tension, but I think if it wasn't for luxury, I think the fashion industry would have really struggled. And again, there's just, from an Africa point of view, I think we consume luxuries very differently
we all
to
do.
the rest
very
of the
much
world.
So, yeah.
There's the idea of buying it. There's the idea of experiencing it. Then there's the idea of wanting it. And I think as a South African market, even look at Pantry. it's a luxury daily experience. It's fancy but easy, again. So, and who would have thought that that pantry, the first 3 months when they weren't serving petrol as yet, was the busiest garage in South Africa.
Yeah, I can guarantee that.
Why?
I was there
because you've created something that someone didn't know they needed.
Yeah.
And there's no weekend without going to pantry. You feel empty.
Yeah.
You know that.
I said to a friend, I said to a friend, that, like, dude, he asked me why do I always go to pantry. I'm like, okay, first and foremost, like, it is luxurious, but it's also, for me, I can grab an ice cream and I'll have the same experience with the ice cream. It'll be even better when I have it. The food, you'll see it right there. Anything that you think of that you need is literally right there. Yeah, just the convenience.
But I think it's how it makes you feel.
Yeah.
And when you can feel that, and when you have that connection with the brand, I think that is the one of the greatest moments that a brand manager can experience, and a creative agency and a consumer. And that's where the love is. Yeah. Now, how do you continue nurturing that love? It's not about giving them more.
Yeah.
It's about working. It's like any relationship, and just continue working at and improving on it. So, even from an eventing point of view, I just don't throw an event for the sake of throwing an event. I think specifically in a country like South Africa and Africa, I think there's always got to be a higher purpose to what we do. From an eventing point of view, about bringing people together, being quite specific in the curation of the music, understanding, how people flow at an event. South Africans, we celebrate and we drink, we eat, and those are the moments that we really connect. And then you've got this thing called rugby that had just connected us in more ways that we could ever imagine. So, don't just do an event because I want to do an event. I think, and for Marble Circus, the event, the Marble Circus itself is logistically a blood, sweat, and tears. Let me just not tell you this. This thing is easy. There are people that don't sleep for weeks prior to it and afterwards because, we're passionate about it and we love that. But there's also a big legacy piece that's starting to come to life that the Marble Circus has initiated, and Investec have been a really big driver and enablement of what this legacy looks like. So, we've got 3-4 verticals driving the legacy. There's a very specific creative legacy vertical where we're giving bursaries away. So in a year or two, some students can actually be working on the Marble Circus in the consortium, in the organization. Tsepo Jeans, they're announcing a young fashion designer and giving her the opportunity to create a couture range. Tash and I have a great ideal of putting that onto SA Fashion Week on the ramp itself. And then, when you talk luxury and excessiveness like the marble itself, there's wastage, unfortunately. So how do we take the waste and turn that into quite a meaningful proposition for the communities around Mulder's Drift, and the beneficiaries of, feeding more mouths, and how do young kids also benefit from the Marble Circus? So this year we're hoping to raise over 1.5-2 million rand that we give back into the community. We give back to enable creativity. We give back to enable fashion. I strongly believe that those creativity in itself, and not from a advertising creative, from a creative economy itself, I think that will always save our continent and our country.
I know Tsepo Jeans personally, amazing person. And the fact that you guys are actually going to do bursaries, that's something I haven't seen an event property do. And agency point of view as well. It's also the thing of when I'm at all these festivals and events, and just from my personal experience, because I'm a music person, I love festivals, I love events. And, I get to meet sometimes the people that are backstage, and, I get to see how they set it up and, how they tear it down, end of it. And some people ask me how did you get to the point where people backstage? And I'm like, I won't lie, it just naturally happened. I would go to a festival by myself, and then someone would speak to me, and then not realizing that person's the stage manager. And then it's like, no, man, come backstage. If you're just alone, come hang out with us. Yeah. So the fact that you're willing to give back to people like, yo, we're going to give you this bursary, you're going to learn things about production and the backstage and how to run it. I love it. Personally, I would encourage everyone that's young, that's into events and festivals, just to, apply your mind and go after it. But I think the biggest thing I wanted to ask was, what was the biggest challenge in pulling off something of this magnitude?
The biggest challenge is not failing.
Yeah.
To be honest, I think, you talk about the event space. So, you're fighting for a share of wallet also. You think you've got, and then you've got so many local events, from Cotton Fest to Hey Neighbor. You've got Ultra, you've got the smaller ones, you've got the bigger ones, and then you get a Travis Scott that just derails everything and everyone. And you're never going to beat a global superstar. You're never going to, and we don't get as many as we used to, or many as we'd like to in South Africa. So when we do get the opportunity, kids and adults and people are going to save for that. So I think the most important thing for me is find your market and become obsessed with giving them the best experience. Yeah. Because Marble Circus, I don't think is for everyone. Yeah. Hey Neighbor is not for everyone. But find who your audience is and become obsessed with continuously elevating and curating what you want, because I think that becomes your distinction. So, the biggest things that stick in our mind is it's always going to be, you need for any event, you need the masses to give you the groundswell, because you can curate the most beautiful experience, the best stage, the best artists, but if you don't have people's emotions overflowing and mixing and connecting, you got nothing. And the most important thing is creating a proposition that is, and specifically when you're talking about a luxury festival proposition, you better deliver on that. So for me, the greatest fear that we have is not delivering on what we've promised, because we understand the share of wallet to buy a playground ticket, which is one of the cheaper tickets, 950 Rand, and then you got 4,000-5,000 Rand fine dining tickets. But I think the playground ticket is as much fun as the fine dining. I think they have more fun because they are enticed to move around a lot more, where a guy sitting in a 4,000-5,000 Rand seat, he thinks he's got the greatest ticket in the house, but he doesn't. But that's what he wants. So for me, the big thing over the next 2 months, or geez, this thing is 6 weeks, 7 weeks away, is just now. It just delivering on the promise. Okay. We had a banger first year.
You did.
We literally hit a 10 out of 10. There were a lot of things that went wrong, but a lot of the festival goers don't see that, thankfully. Yeah. And we've got to deliver on that. And as a consortium, we feel we've got to deliver on that and much more. It's not just 1%. We want to be 50% better. So there's an introduction of Ferris wheels this year, so many different experiences. The talent is slowly starting to come out. We're still very proudly South African. I think we should be proudly South African in our talent. There are some internationals, but the talent is not the main focus. It's the LMC experience that is the main focus.
And where do you see LMC in the next 5 years? Taking it globally or keeping it uniquely SA?
No, I tell you where I'd see it in 5 years is I'd see it as a bigger property that can liken itself to Tomorrowland, where it has its own merchandise stores. I'd love to see an LMC summit, something that drives, that talks in the LMC way of bringing entrepreneurship, bringing enterprise, bringing the private sector, enabled by the creative economy and the creative creators, talking about the how do we solve the issues that we face. So I'd love to see a summit coming out, a business summit coming out of the Marble Circus property itself. There's a family festival that's coming. I'd love to see it in Dubai in a good few years, which is the epitome of luxury. In every possible way. The country's been curated, not just a field for 8,000 people. They've curated a country in everything that the world had. They just perfected and amplified it even more. I was watching an Instagram video the other day. There's a guy in one of the restaurants, I think it was Zuma, and his only job is to cut ice. Yes. But that's what he does, and that's what he loves doing. And he does it to the best of his ability. And when you serve the ice, it's a wow moment. So the detail and craftsmanship and passion for what you do, We just want to continue to delivering that. And I think as a country, it's having a big impact on our country. Our restaurants of being elevated, our every experience, our retail experiences are being elevated. So there's a desire for us to do better.
Is there any dream artists, chefs, designers you'd love to bring into the circus, besides the ones you've already mentioned right now?
Yeah, there are. I tell you, I'd love to start announcing chefs in the long term, like a big artist announcement. I'll tell you, the one challenge that we do have is that currently the timings of the Marble Circus is in the last 3 weeks of Ibiza and Mykonos. So to tie up some of the big talent, that becomes difficulty. But, everyone from, love to get Black Coffee on stage. We'd love to get, I'd love to get the biggest artists, but it's got to be able to lend themselves to the Marble Circus and the festival itself. So I don't think there's any talent. I even proposed Benson Boone this year. Until you realized how big and how much he costs. But I think he's a performer that lends himself to an LMC experience, because I think so few performers today actually perform. Freddie Mercury and those guys perform, and he's become that in the modern era. So I think there is no artist that we would not love to see on stage. It's just a case of our stars aligning with their stars. And for South Africa and the Marble Circus to be a proudly South African property that artists internationally want to
come to.
And we've had so much interest from a lot of the big artists. It's just a timing thing at the moment on why do we do it in October in Johannesburg. It's because the weather. Okay. If I do it any later, I'm going to have the Marble Circus rained out is a big problem, and just any earlier, it's still really cold. So it's a window timing thing. But I do think our stars will align, and I think as the property grows, and the idea of performing at the Luxurious Marble Circus Festival will become more enticing for bigger artists over time. And just tell you, you'll never perfect it in year one. I think that's a big problem for us is you got to think you got to hit a 10 out of 10 in year one. No, just do it. The advice I can give everyone, if you're thinking it, just fucking go and do it. You cannot wait for anyone to say, well, I think it's a great idea, because more people are going to tell you it's not a great idea. More people told us this would never work. But we've done it. Now we're just going to perfect it. And this property is not going to go anywhere. It's going to be around in 5 years, 10 years, and you and I are going to have a conversation another 10 years. And it's going to be as big, and it must become a tourism property for the country. Imagine moving it to Cape Town with the backdrop of Cape Town. It'd be incredible.
And I think, we had this conversation where musically, I feel like we are the hub of music right now. And I feel like all our artists should be getting the big rates they want. Their full rates here in SA. And playing at the biggest stages, but more importantly, these big stages must be in South Africa. Like, yes, they can go overseas and everything, but we've got everything we could ever want. We've got everything we could ever need. We just, I think, like, you guys are building the infrastructure, you've already built it. I would like us to be the hub for everyone international to come to us and be like, you know what, I'm going to that festival in South Africa, so that people get a different perception of how it is here. Because I've had many friends from Zambia. I had a friend from Portugal come through, and she was like, I didn't think South Africa was like this. I was like, dude, it's just that online is nice. You get fed things online. There's just finer details you have to look at it.
Yeah.
But come and experience it with us. And there was a friend of mine that came through from the US, and it was having food. And he had to fly out to Barcelona, I think a couple of days after. And I was like, dude, you came at the wrong time because it's winter. But like, come back 1st of September onwards. Yeah. Like, these are the places I would like to take you. This is where I would want you to come and experience South Africa and just feel the energy and the love of people that really love music, and realize that you don't need to hold yourself back or be scared, And thing is, people won't even realize that you're not South African.
Yeah.
You'll be literally just standing there. They probably hear it from the voice, but they'll be like, oh no, man. Oh, you're not from SA? And then people from SA are so welcoming. I think that's what some people forget.
We are the most joyous nation in the world.
Yeah.
I think the challenge, and that's why we did the Marble Circus in Johannesburg, was make Johannesburg, make Gauteng great again.
Yeah.
We have such a negative stigma about,
Gauteng.
no, I only want to go to Cape Town, until they actually come. Why? And, I'd love Ultra, I'd love the Marble Circus, I'd love some of these properties to become the new face of South Africa. Not all the negative and the unrest, because I think unrest and, what do you call it? Pillaging of funds and corruption, it's everywhere.
Yeah.
I don't think I think as a country, we are in such an amazing place. Just come together and celebrate that. Let's not have so much infighting, because as a nation, I think the Marble Circus can become the new face of South African tourism. I think there's so many other musical properties. I think the Springboks have become the face of South Africa in a really positive way. And it shouldn't just be Cape Town. It shouldn't just be the certain wine farms and that. There's so much that we have to look forward to, so much that we've done to get us to this point. And we must just find the right infrastructure and platforms to shout about it.
And what's this? This is something, obviously, I think it happened also last year. Obviously, some people on social media with different events and festivals, they always feel like the ticket pricing is very high. Whereas, personally, I understand it. You can't expect high-level production, high-level sound, and the international artists that you want at such a low rate. Everyone has to get paid. Everyone has to, these things are not cheap. Booking the sound, booking the flights for these artists, with the ticket prices being so high, if you could give us like a little bit of information, like what exactly would people be paying for? Like, let's look at LMC, for that ticket price, what would people essentially be paying for that they don't know?
Again, for me, so let's talk the 950 ticket, the playground ticket. And that's exactly what it is. It's a playground ticket. I think the thing most people don't get is a place they can sit and just be with their friends and be with the group that they arrive with. So at the Marble Circus, and this has been a big enablement by the brand collaborators, where, Heineken are building a structure that will seat 400 people. Oh. And Heineken, a big, big drive for them is obviously F1 at the moment. They're bringing a lot of that exciting assets to the Marble Circus. You got the Moe Chandon Terrace again. Yeah. It's for me, at 950, you can experience, to your point, those are not for a select few. Yeah. That's for everyone. The Savannah Fantastical Forests, I think, seats 600-700 people, and you've got pergolas, and you've got day beds, and you've got lounging areas. So firstly, everyone will have a place and a little destination there that they can say is theirs. And there's more than enough seating for everyone. I think the second thing is, if you're a foodie, then there's lobster rolls. There's just so much amazing food, and there's beautiful wines. There's Villafonte's now on board this year, proudly South African wine that really holds its own globally from a wine perspective. So come there understanding that it's not a musical festival.
Yes.
It is a experience where you'll hear the best sounds, you'll taste the best foods, you'll savor the best wines, you'll savor the best cocktails, you'll have the ability to drink the best champagnes, taste the best whiskeys, and just take it for what it is. But no one is going to stand in long queues, no one's going to be neglected, no one's going to have nowhere to seat. Everything will be curated for 1 to 12,000 people. And for those that are sitting in the fine dining, in the Saint and Marble, the Royal Lounge, and the Grand Dining Room, we're changing the food from last year quite radically. It'll be more like the platter and the food, the bread boards, and there's beautiful dishes. I don't want to give too much away, but again, there's just savoring the best of the Marble group and just putting it into a really fun luxury environment. So just the elevation on certain things. We had a lot of learnings from last year, and we can only improve this year.
And for me, a lot of people think that, for my personal experience, just for people that wonder, I don't buy festival tickets or event tickets off the lineup. I don't bother about the lineup.
Yeah.
I think when people ask me, oh no, but is that DJ gonna be playing or whatever, I'm like, I really don't look at that. If it's a trusted brand that I love and I've been going there for like months and years, I'll buy the ticket without the lineup ever dropping. So, and it's also, I think people must also understand, it's nice being in the lounges. Bear in mind, I was by the expensive one, so I can experience the expensive into the playground.
Yeah.
So I was at the lounges and stuff, and then I was like, okay, the playground as well.
Go play.
Yeah, and I was like, you know what? It's for everyone.
Yeah.
You know, and yes, there's people that want to have that certain luxury experience when they go to like a Mulder's Drift or Krugersdorp, which is great. Always remember that there's still fun in general.
Yeah.
You don't have to have that 4,000 rand, the 5,000 or whatever. Literally, I think I had the most fun in the playground more than I did in the lounge. Because the lounges, I feel like for me, it's my tactic. I have fun in the playground and then I'd go and relax, catch a breather.
Yeah.
And then be like, you know, I'm going out to see more people. Because that's my experience. I want to go and see more people at a festival.
Yeah.
If there's a song playing, we should be at the bar dancing like, oh, this is our favorite song. And you just meet someone new. So I feel like people should just not worry about the lineup. Think about the experience you're going to have there. Because I had an amazing time. I'll be there this year. But obviously people have this thing that's going on that weekend alone, there's just a lot of festivals and events happening. You know, how did you guys even position LMC to stand out?
Look, I think the only, like I said, when you're fighting for a share of wallet, and our price is a little more than most of them, I think the story has to be really compelling. Okay. And I think it's got to be authentic, not believable. Yeah. I can make people believe, but I can't make it authentic. And I genuinely have to fight for what I know I did last year. Last year, it was a lot harder because we didn't know what we were actually bringing together until the day. Like, none of us could foresee that. But this year, we have a very clear view on that. So there are a lot of events there, but I think if you are flamboyant in your character, if you're expressive, and you just want a moment where you just want to feel like you are not where you normally be every weekend or at a normal festival, and you can just let your inhibitions and your mind go and just feel a fantasy world that we don't get to experience as adults anymore, then Marble Circus will deliver on that. And it will deliver in every way.
And from last year, which brand collab surprised you the most? Like, which was the one that was spoken about the most, besides the Savannah one, obviously?
I tell you, I thought Johnny Walker's platform idea and activation was incredibly strong. And I think even prior to the event itself, they had activations for consumers running through Marble and Saint. I thought the Verve Terrace, to have a Verve champagne lounge in the middle of Mulder's Drift was just epic. There were so many weird tensions in that, but it was so beautiful. The carousel bar, zoo bar was just, it had its own artists, it had its own feel. Some people never left that bar itself. Schweppes had beautiful activations. I don't think any brand stood out. I think every brand showed up equally in every way. And I think the consumers, no one felt like they were being marketed.
Yeah, or bombarded with different...
No, they just felt like, oh, wow, I'm sitting in... They didn't even realize I'm sitting in the Verve Terrace, and this is amazing. And then, hey, I'll meet you in the Johnny Walker platform, or let's meet at the Savannah Forest, or go to the Speakeasy. So the brands were just naturally accepted as a big part of the fun of the circus itself and the luxury experience.
And what's this? How do you plan on elevating, the other, how can I put it? How do you plan on elevating the theme or the experience of the areas? Because there was a bit of a disconnect in some of the spaces, more visually too, but how do you plan on elevating it more this year?
I think, as I said to you, I think we're never going to get everything right in year two. So for me, a lot of learnings from last year. We've got to be able to bring everything to feeling like it is together. Like you said, there could have been some dead zones last year, but this year, especially we went to the Carousel Bar, which is behind the stage. This year we're putting the Ferris wheel is there. You get a chance to go on a Ferris wheel. You'll see that entire thing from a Ferris wheel. There's an emporium, a merchandise store. There's a beautiful emporium. There's a lot of surprises this year that will actually bring things together. So there's trampoline stages with their own DJs. They're actually going to be DJs pre the main stage in the Marble and Grand Dining and the Royal Lounge. They'll have their own DJs playing until we really bring everyone together. This year, like there's just an elevation. There's the Fabiani zone, and I don't want to say what that is, but they've got a beautiful activation in itself. So go there and try it. It's like going to the Atlantis, the water park. I think if you go, you're only going to get to 5%. Every year you're going to go get to another 5%. And the circus I don't think you'll ever complete what we've done every year. You'll never get to see everything. And I think if we get to that point, we've done well. But the feedback we got was really positive, constructively positive, and we feel that we've probably answered a lot of that this year. We tried to pull off a hot air balloon this year. It was just one thing that unfortunately we couldn't, but we're going to try that in year 3. But we've still got so many ideas in our bag of tricks that we just can't get to everything.
I'm like us having the conversation before the interview and right now, I realize that you, as well as Tash and maybe the rest of the team, you are, touching on certain points of view. You're being that kid again. Speaking of the the air balloon right now, and I'm like, okay, wow, I didn't know that was actually something that was going to happen. And it's nice, realizing that the team behind it are also trying to, be kids themselves and also put themselves in our shoes, like how they want to experience it if it was just them coming, and this is where I'm going to ask you is, when you picture an LMC, who comes to mind? Which audience comes to mind?
I think for me, it's just adults being kids again. Like if I, there was a lot of debate with brands pre and then post. New brands wanted to get on board. They were like, well, who's your target audience? And you were there. You saw a group of 18-year-old teenagers, and I'll never forget, I walked around and I saw this couple sitting in the gardens just off the Windhoek tasting area, and they were sitting in the sun. And I said, how are you enjoying yourself? I had a bottle of wine and a beautiful ice bucket. And I said, and the lady, they must have been in their 70s. She says, this is our first date in 25 years. Wow. And then you saw another family, a mother and husband with their kids that had just come of age, and they can experience having wine with them in the gardens. So is there a target audience here? There was a specific age group, but it caters for everyone. So, again, so who do I picture in my mind? I just want every South African that attends to just have a load of fun and feel special.
Okay.
And if I don't deliver on that, then I think we failed. But I think the team behind the Marble Circus complacency is a word that doesn't exist in anyone's vocab. We cannot become complacent that year 1 was a success. No, because we know what it means to curate. We know what it means for someone to take the money and go and buy the ticket. And we value that. And we want to continue building on the value that we actually give them rather than, for this becoming a big profitable organization. This thing, do you know what? Think what it did to South Africa that weekend. The only other thing that, and on Monday, if you weren't there, you felt a little bit of FOMO. And if you were there, you got that smirk on your face that says, "Jeez, I got something in my step." And I think if you do that, you've done it.
Yeah, and I also encourage people just to go to different festivals and go alone. That's another thing. Go alone.
Yeah.
Because I always see this on my social media where, an event or a festival would drop and someone won't have another person to go with, or their friends can't go because maybe they're in a relationship and they're very fully committed, I always suggest go alone. You will have the most fun alone. And
absolutely,
you will find other people that are there alone with you. And they'll be like, no, man, I'm alone, you're alone. And you just have the most amazing time. So I think that's my one advice. If your friends will not be going, or for one reason you really want to go, please do go. Do not hold back, because you don't want to be sitting back there like, oh, I could have gone to this, where people are having TikToks, videos explaining which part they loved about it. So I always say go, and you'll figure everything out afterwards.
I think you arrive alone and you leave as part of an LMC community. Like that is how it works. I just also think, like, the thing with festivals is they are so unpredictable. If you look at Burning Man, that's currently on, the first few days was just swamped by
traffic,
by a sandstorm. It is just, unfortunately, the nature of festivals. Anything can happen. And I think there's a mindset of those that do go that are open to certain things going a little wrong and that. And, like Burning Man, who would have thought I think it was last year or the year before, where they had the rain right at the end. Mm-hmm. But now they hadn't even, on day one, just taken out by a sandstorm and wind. And that's Mother Nature. Mother Nature will kick back when she wants. But to your point, you will arrive alone at the festival, but you will leave as part of a community. And I agree, you will have the best time.
And in terms of, on the experience side, not just to question, just a huge congratulations, obviously, on delivery of the visual identity and the stage, because those are the few things I loved. How will you be bringing the circus to life, or add more theater this year?
We're going to double up. We're doubling up on the amount of performers. So not just talent, not just musical talent, on actually circus performers. So again, this is a big part of the legacy piece, where we actually work with National School of Arts, where that's where we go for the biggest source of a lot of those performers and a lot of those stilt walkers and mimes and that. And obviously some of them, have been around, but most of the talent comes from National School of Arts. So again, that's a deep-rooted part of the legacy of getting everyone involved, those that ordinarily don't get the opportunity. The Marble Circus orchestra, they'll be back, and they've evolved. Wow. So the performers was something that came last year. We've doubled up on the amount of performers. People loved them. This year we'll have a lot more of a whimsical, you'll really start to see the circus feel come to life in many, many different ways. And again, there's these connector zones, maybe quite small, but they are certainly, they're a lot more prevalent in really bringing everything together.
And for you, what would be your dream lineup? Obviously, budget, blank check, dream lineup. This is for LMC. Dream lineup. International, local. Obviously, you've said Black Coffee already.
Yeah, I just think, he is the OG of South African talent. So I think we'd just love to have him on stage, and I believe one day we will. But I think the dream lineup would be, like I said, I think Benson Boone, if you look at Coachella, you've got Travis Scott on stage, and then you've got Benson Boone on stage, and you've got so many different talents. So it's not, and I think one of the things festivals fall the trap in is a music genre. You'll stick to one genre, and that's where you start to exclude those that like hip hop. So I'd love to see a lineup that has got all different genres, but it's beautifully curated to get to this ultimate moment. So I don't think, it's not just EDM music that should be on stage. There are people that can play a violin that is then, collaborated with a DJ and a vocalist, and all of a sudden you have something very different. Yeah. I think hip hop in our country, I think it should get a bigger stage, to be honest. There's a huge following for hip hop. So I'd love to see some of our incredible hip hop talent, international hip hop talent, coming on stage. I think there is definitely place for a big African artist on stage.
Maybe like a Wizkid, maybe, or Burner.
Absolutely. I think, Burner. There's got to be remember that a circus is about diversity. A circus is about, but just remember, with every circus, there is a lion and there's a lion tamer. So you need to get to the point. Now, to answer your question, I don't have the answer to that. Is it a Peggy Goo? Is it, who is the lion or the lioness on stage that just brings everything together? And I think in time, we'll get to that point. And as I said, it's aligning the stars and the dates at the moment because, if you look at what DJs are earning and what they're doing, and, Calvin Harris, I think he's the highest paid at the moment, $1 million a set.
For 1 hour.
For 1 hour, yeah. So, it's a business. Music is business, right? If you told your parents many years ago, I'm going to become a DJ, they're like, you're a failure, But, and that for me is a big part of the creator culture and economy. And I don't think the world's embracing it yet.
Yeah.
You look at YouTubers and you look at these people that are creating incredible creative content, including music, including film. And now you've got AI that means you can just create a feature film in half the time, a quarter of the budget. So I think a whole industry is taking shape in many different ways. But And I think all of those, the property, the Marble Circus in itself, all our creative is done with AI. Every single piece of creative is AI generated, originated from our team.
Yeah.
And we've embraced AI as a big tool because, again, we also have limited budgets. I don't have out of home, I don't have TV capabilities, and that's where, collaborations and sponsorships become a big thing for us. So you take the F1 property. Broadcast rights is what generates 60-70% of the income, then sponsorships, and then the entertainment layer specific to a country where that circus moves, and that is a big circus logistically. And the layers are like, if you've been to an F1, I think the last thing you do is watch the race.
True.
There are just so many layers of events and 4 or 5 days of just this immersive F1 experience. And again, you look at Disney coming on board next year. They're the family F1 partner. I don't know if you saw it this year. It was in Monaco. Just go back. You'll see the silhouette of Mickey Mouse coming soon. That's Disney. And they're announcing their partnership. So I'd love to get, like, F1 is a brand haven because you get to so many audiences and it's a global property. And I do think over time, the Marble Circus has the same propensity, the right team behind it to create the same level of enticement and investment from brands where they see the real value of getting to a consumer.
And from last year, and obviously you giving the hint that there'll be a flip of it, I definitely feel like you guys will pull it off. I see it happening.
Thank you for the word of confidence.
And it's just, that conversation with, client, you the client, and asking those collaborators to come on board. Are the sponsors going to change this year? And if so, why are you changing the sponsors from last year and this year?
Yeah. We've got new sponsors. So those, we're always going to be loyal to those that trusted us when we didn't know what we were creating. And most of them, all of them are back. Mercedes is back. We get 10 cars that drive around 9 months, branded cars, 9 months of the year. RGC is back, RGBC, Heineken Group is back with Savannah, and obviously Heineken is coming on board from a beer point of view, and there are new sponsors. So I think how you just also remember, like, a festival has fashion, it has alcohol, it has food, it has these sectors, it has, vaping and smoking is a big part, whilst they have their restrictions. These opportunities are a great opportunity for them to actually activate in a very, very controlled environment. So I think we've never been desperate for sponsors. Okay. We've always tried to curate the right partnership. So a sponsorship for me is just, I prefer a partnership. So we've curated and gone through the process of finding the right partners. And remember, we're brand agencies. So we have access to a lot of these clients. Investec is it's a bank. Yeah. And they see so much value in the Marble Circus. And I think as the title sponsor, they're one of the easiest sponsors just to work with in how much they not about branding the event. They're about owning the event as a title sponsor and using it as a big proposition within their banking offering to their consumers and their customers. And for me, that's where sponsorship becomes partnership becomes real enablement, and not just enablement from, getting to the consumer. I think as a country and a continent, if every brand doesn't enable some issue that we're facing, well, I don't see the value in the purpose, and I don't really. For me, it's a big, big personal thing. So all these sponsors have come on board naturally.
Yes.
We do go on, we sell to certain sponsors, and we've had many people approach, and we just said it's not the right fit. So we've also that's why I said, in a sense, we've become the client. And we're not become the client in that we assume the position of power. I think we've become the consumer and the customer of what it is to pay for this event and what we want to give them.
And for those that are starting event properties and, trying to sell their events and whatever to these brands, what advice would you give them from an agency point of view? Because a lot of people won't know how to communicate or how to reach these people and brands. Because that's the one question I always get, like, oh man, I want to hit up this brand. I want to do that. How do I get in contact with them? Or, how would you sell an LMC to someone that doesn't know?
I tell you, the first thing for me is find your white space.
Okay.
Don't compete with what's already out there, because there you could be competing with power, you could be competing with money. And if you're a startup, you don't have those resources and infrastructure to compete. Find a white space. Even with the likes of LMC, we found that white space. I can't compete with other big music properties out there. So we found our white space. And then the second big thing is, don't underestimate the value in telling a great story. And that, for me, and that's where the real creative engine of Grid, I think, has really come to the fore, because we've created an authentic, genuine property called the Luxurious Marble Circus, and all the creative is an expression of that. This year we have, it has its own lexicon. This year we're launching this incredible its own dictionary. Every letter is a letter of the Luxurious Marble Circus dictionary in itself. And we've had an artist. She's literally sketched every single letter and the meaning of that letter, whether it's whimsical or your uiest you, someone has handcrafted and crafted that. So it's going to take time, but don't underestimate the power of creativity. It's not a lineup. It's not just a stage, and it's not just a location. Those are the key fundamentals. But package it. Every great thing needs to be packaged and needs to have an authentic meaning behind it.
And in one sentence, how would you describe LMC?
One sentence. It's whimsical, and just come and be your uiest you.
Wow. Okay.
Probably be my
sign-off. That'll be your sign-off. Yeah. And, if there's one thing people should take away from LMC, this year, obviously online, I see you guys doing storytelling very well. Yeah. And the thing is, you're enticing an idea of I actually want to keep seeing this post. What are they going to, when you hit the notification bell, I want to, every time they post, I want to see what they're going to come up with. So I saw you guys have dropped the lineup, and luckily a few of my friends are on there. Kudos to them for pushing hard work. But yeah, man, I'm really looking forward to seeing what you guys are going to do this year. Obviously you can't give away too much, but yeah, I think everyone that hasn't been to a Luxurious Marble, please do go. And yeah, man, I'm looking forward to just seeing what's going to come. But I think people don't know what it takes to build an event at that scale and at the first time alone.
Yeah.
Would you scale it up, or would you try and fix everything, make it perfect for a couple of years, and then take that leap of faith and be like, we're going to probably, after Cape Town, after maybe a Durban or whatever, will you do an international?
No. Again, I go back to F1. It's like an F1 team. If you don't refine, perfect, whilst the car is moving and whilst the race is on, I think you get left behind. So we've got to continue scaling it. In even size in Johannesburg. Love to get one in Cape Town, but it's a very different market. It's a very different expectation, and we've got to be intentional and clear about what the marble circus in Cape Town looks like and feels like and how it shows up.
Even setup wise,
and location. I think I'd love to do it in the center of Cape Town itself. Like Atlantic Seaboard, we'd have to. So, but no. We're not gonna perfect everything. It's a living organism. So I think over time it'll perfect itself, and certain things will fall away. But we're never gonna make it perfect before we scale it. I think it's perfect. I think it's got goodness to it. I think it's got some places of improvement. But it's an F1 car. Next year we'll just refine it, keep fine tuning it every week. But we'll never get to a place of perfection.
And what advice would you give to anyone starting their own event company or event property, or just an agency in general? What advice would you give them?
Oh man, 100,000 people are going to tell you not to do it. Yeah. But you're the only one who believes. Back yourself. If you believe that there is something there, find the distinction, find the white space and go for it. And it's not going to be easy.
It really won't.
It won't be easy, no.
But yeah, man, no, thank you so much.
Cool, thank you guys. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much. From me, Katazamanga Matoto Pepe, Ayudnene. Curating, Ndlovu Boybenyathi, Nate 40 Bands. Thank you for watching Groove Theory.
Thank you.